Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris Ferdinandi from GoMakeThings.com, and I am back with part 3 of my series on how to build a modern web app with just vanilla web components. I know it's taken me a while to get this one out. I've gotten a lot of comments asking for it, so here we are, ready to do it. Just real quick, if you want, down below, I'm going to have chapter markers so you can jump ahead to any of the sections in this video. I did want to kick things off with a quick recap for anybody who's missed the previous videos or just wants to brush up on what we're doing here. So we have a web app that lets us add items to a list. So let's say we want to pick from some different fruits. We've got apple, banana, say watermelon. It's a good choice. Probably spelled it wrong. And it lets you know when things have been added. It's all accessible, gets added to the list, and then it just picks an item at random from the list. You can add or remove items if you want, and if you reload the page, items get saved so they show up again next time. And under the hood, this is powered by a custom pick at random element that when the JavaScript on the page loads, spins up a new web component. And so in this web component, we are generating a random identifier just so that each one has its own kind of saved we need that for labels and things like that. We are generating some base HTML, grabbing some elements, listening for different events, submit events, click events, loading any items in local storage. And then when things happen, we are running our handle event method, which routes to the appropriate event handler. If you want to learn a little bit more about how that works, by the way, go check out the first video in this series. I'll make sure there's a link to that down in the description. But this is a really cool thing built into web components that makes it super easy to handle events while also maintaining the context of this so that you can reference different attributes and things like that. So we are, when the form is submitted, we're adding new events to or new items rather to our list. When different buttons are clicked, we're either picking a random item, removing an item, or clearing the list entirely. And then we've got some helper functions to kind of handle those things. And I also have some helper functions that allow us to easily save items or get items from local storage and spit them back into the UI. So anyways, if you want to dig a little bit more into how this works, I'm also going to have a link to the source code down in the description below, so you can check that out. But rather than belabor this to death, I want to jump right into today's video, where we are going to be customizing our web component. So right now, everything that you see here is here. Let me just remove all items. Everything that you see here is hard-coded. So add an item, the add an item button, pick an item, remove all items, even what shows up when you add things, right? So has been added to the list, has been removed from the list. All of that is hard-coded into our source code. And one of the things that any decent library has is the ability to customize different stuff without having to change the source code. And one of the things that's really cool about web components is they let you do that through HTML. So today we're going to look at how all that works. I think it's going to add a lot to our web component, make it reusable in a bunch of different contexts. So that's what we're going to do today. Real quick before we jump into that, if this sort of stuff is interesting to you and you want to learn how to build more of your own web components or build modern web apps using vanilla technology, I think you're going to really enjoy my Lean Web Club over at leanwebclub.com. You get access to an absurd number of workshops, courses, do-it-yourself projects, and even talks I've given on topics like this. In addition to that, you also get access to a massive reference library of all sorts of different things, from vanilla JavaScript topics to tooling and more. Anything that you see that you like, you can also save for quick reference here. So I actually have a boilerplate I use for all of my web components, and you can see I have it bookmarked. So whenever I want to get to it, it shows right up in my dashboard when I log in. I have a toolkit that includes a bunch of different copy-paste boilerplates, helper functions, third-party libraries that I really like. And on top of all that, you also get access to my office hours. So we had our last one a couple weeks ago. But every few weeks, you get to jump on a live video call where you can ask questions and look at code in real time and get some one-on-one personalized feedback. And there's also a community where you can chat with other vanilla evangelists. So if you like that or that seems interesting, you can actually try it free for 30 days over at leanwebclub.com. And if you like it after that, it's just $19 a month or $190 for the whole year, which gets you 2 months free. So if that seems cool, I'd love if you checked it out. With that out of the way, let's actually dig into the meat of today's video. So let's start by talking about how customization on web components works. So because all of the instantiation happens automatically based on the existence of the custom element, all of the customization that you do is also going to happen on the HTML. So for example, if you come from a maybe a traditional JavaScript library world where you might be used to doing something like new pick at random. So this is a common way to kind of instantiate web components in the traditional JavaScript world. And you might, you might have an argument you pass in, like the selector for that element. So we're going to create a new thing for pick at random. And then you would pass in often an object of arguments. So for example, if you wanted to change the form label, the button label, any of those sorts of things, right? You would have arguments for that, right? So so you would have add label, and what are we doing right now? Whereas right now it's add an item, right? You might have add a person. Like let's say you wanted to do like a pick the designated driver kind of app, right? Add button, add person, right? So you would do this over and over again for all the different options. And then when the library instantiates, it would take all of these things and update how it renders the UI. With web components, you basically do the same thing, except the selector doesn't matter because it's always going to use the custom element. And then each of these types of custom things you might do, those become attributes that you can add to the element. So I'm actually going to open this up in 2 different pages. That way we can jump back and forth because it'll be a little bit easier that way, right? So right here, right, we've got add an item. And one other like really cool thing, right, is you can use defaults, which is really, really nice. So we're going to say here, we will actually, you know what? To make this easier, let's actually have a like a settings object, right? So we're gonna say this, no, not with a capital, this settings equals, and then we're gonna have an object. And we will store all of the different things that would otherwise be here. We'll save them in here, and I'll show you how this works. So let's start with, let's look at all the different things. So we've got the, I guess we'll use what we had before, right? So add label. And then right now we've got this text right here. Add an item. But what we want to do is we want to check if there's an attribute. So let's say we've got add label equals, and we want to say add a, I'm just going to go with like people for this particular one, right? So add a person. And so in our object here, we can, in our class, we can say this get attribute add label, or add an item. And so what this is going to do is if this attribute exists, it will return the value for it. If there's no value, it will fall back to this instead. And I actually think there's a different, what is it? Nullish coalescing operator. Is that what I want? Let's see here. So, yeah, so it's the double question mark instead. So theoretically, we could have a value where like the label is 0 or an empty string, and that's what the user wants. So we should instead use this. So this basically says, use this thing, but not if it just has no value, because like an empty string, 0, those will all return false as well. Whereas the nullish coalescing operator will only return false if the value is null or undefined. So as long as there's some sort of attribute here, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do that. I'm thinking through, if it's an empty string, that's bad. So yeah, for this particular one, I'm sorry, I'm thinking through this in real time. We'll use the traditional OR operator. And let's see, so we're going to have add label, add button. So we'll say this, get attribute, add button, or, and then for each one of these, right, we're going to instead say this settings, and then we'll use whatever the setting is, right? So same thing here. We'll change this to this settings, add button, and we'll bring this up here. And we're going to do this for all of the different things, right? So pick button. And this is going to be a little tedious. I apologize in advance, right? But so we will, and you can see here one other thing. I am using custom attributes. So it's relatively common for folks to use data attributes for stuff like this in traditional HTML, right? Where you might have data add label equals. And this is cool because it gets you access to the data set attribute. With web components, especially ones where I have a lot of different options, I find that it gets really verbose to author like this. And we're using a custom element. So I kind of like to have custom attributes. One of the things I recommend now that I used to not historically is rather than having single word attributes, I recommend having at least one dash. Just like with a custom element, it helps provide a little bit of safety against a platform native attribute of that same name being created and causing some challenges or breaks with the thing that you've done. So I try to always include like a dash in my attributes now just to prevent that from happening. So for pick button, we're going to say pick an item. And then again, you know, same exact thing here. So we will say pick button. We've got clear button. Right, clear button. We'll add that. And there shouldn't be too many more of these. So maybe for this particular video, we just for ease, we won't do everything. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens. Cool. Actually, yeah, like realistically, there's not many other things that happen in here. So there's also, this is where, okay, so this is one area where I'd like to show you a little bit about how you can customize this even further. So we've got right here, we've got show status, right, with a value and then some custom text. So how would we make this customizable for the user? So one of the things I like to do, I'm going to open this up so we can keep multiple things open now. So this is the add status is what I'll call that. So we've got add status, and we're going to say this get attribute add status or and now that we're bringing this up to a setting, what are we going to do about this, right? So let's just copy paste it as is for now. But this isn't going to work. So what I like to do, we're going to scrape this out. We're just going to call it value. But actually let me make sure I have that saved somewhere. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say this settings add, what was it? It was add status. add status, replace, and then I'm going to grab this in a second, but we're going to replace it with this field value. So we're doing a string replace on that setting, and we're going to replace this. We're basically using this like if you've ever used handlebars or mustache back in the day for templating, we're using it a little bit like that, where we're going to do a string replace on the item. And I can actually show you this in action right now. So let's say add status equals you added to the list. So we'll go like that. And if we reload, we've got, you can see add person. This didn't take because I didn't customize it. That's why. So let's say Charles. You added Charles to the list. So it works really, really nice, right? Some of these you can see we haven't customized them all. I have this customized, but nothing else. But we'll run through the whole list at the end. But so this string replace is a really nice way to handle things where you've got some sort of dynamic value, but you want to add the ability for folks to customize some things. We've also got this right here, right? The clear the list messaging. So we'll say clear all confirm, and we'll add that, and we'll create an attribute for that. So clear all confirm, and then down here we'll say this settings clear all confirm. So we're going to swap out all the things everywhere that we see them. Yep, the settings add status. Just want to make sure I'd done that correctly. So same thing here, right? Here we've got another one where we need to replace the text. So we're going to jump over here. What is this field? This is remove status. Okay, cool. Remove status. So we'll drop that in. We're going to go like that. And then once again, we'll say remove status. And what do we want to say here? We'll call this value again. Let's be consistent with how we do this. And then if we jump over here, what we're going to say is this settings, remove status, replace value with text. This can all go away. And okay, here we go. So this is the other one, right? The selected text. So again, we will say selected status, this get attribute, selected status, you picked. We don't need a template literal for that. Let's be consistent. And then again, we're going to change this to value. We want to be really, really consistent so that the API is really nice and clean for the users. This settings, selected status, replace, and we're going to replace value with, in this case, it is items 0. So we're doing two things with this approach. We are defining all of these things ahead of time rather than in the source code. And that's nice because if you ever want to change any of these just as the default, it's all in one spot. Makes it nice and easy to do. But it also means that the user can then customize all of this stuff. We could theoretically even let users change the like the button icon and the button text. I don't necessarily know that I want to get into, well, you know what? Here, we're building a proper app, right? So what is this? This is the remove button, right? So we're going to say remove button is this, and remove label is, once again, we've got value, right? So let's copy this. Except we're going to change this to value. Cool. So then if we jump back down here, we've got this settings, remove button, and this settings, remove. It should actually be remove button. Remove button. Well, yeah, we can call it remove label. That's fine. Remove label, replace value, text. There we go. Any other places where there's custom text? I think that might be it. Yeah, that's it. All right, cool. So let's take a look at actually customizing this entire thing now, right? So we've got our settings object. I'm going to bring this over here just so I don't forget what everything is. So we've got, oh yeah, these last few, I didn't actually change it, right? So let's say, we're going to say remove button, and for this one, we will get remove label. Okay. Quit. Let's drop these in. Okay. So we've got add label, add button equals add person. And here, let's also, just for the sake of readability, because this is going to get real big, let's do this. All right. There we go. Cool. So we will get rid of the ones we already did. We've got add status already. Pick button equals, what do I want to say here? Oh yeah, and why is that single quotes? I'm in like, oh, that's why, because I have quotes in there. That's right. Pick button. So we'll say pick a person. Clear button equals, or remove everyone. We already have add status. Clear all, confirm. You know what? I like that message. That doesn't have to be changed. No, let's do it just to here. So we'll say, you sure, bro. And then remove status equals, you have removed. I just want to be able to make sure everything actually works the way we want it to. And then selected status looks like it is value for the name. And, or actually, you know what? Here, let's do this. Let's be a little cheeky. Say value has to drive, and we'll go remove label equals get rid of value. And finally, I guess I will customize the button, right? So we'll say remove button equals, and then let's go with an emoji for this one. Let's see. Is there some sort of, yeah, what do we want to do? Yeah, I guess we'll do that. We'll just pop one of those in there. And then let me get all this out because that's not valid HTML. And so we've got, yep, you can see the button text has been updated. If I were to look at the label on this, why is this down to the bottom? Let's pop this over to the side. Let's bring this down. Cool. So get rid of value. This isn't being replaced. Okay. So let's see what's going on here. Remove label. And then where are we using it? Replace value with text. This settings remove label, replace value with text. Why is that? This settings replace let label equal console log label. Let's see here. Get rid of value. Value has to drive. You removed value. So none of these are working. Okay, we're going to have to go into debug mode. Let's see what's going on there. Well, we'll add, let's see. Charles has to drive. Interesting. Why is the X showing up? Oh, we've broken some things. Okay. All right. Remove everyone. You sure, bro? Yep. So that part worked. Okay. Let's debug. So why is this not working? Okay. So we will console log this settings, remove label. Okay. Console, reload, Charles, get rid of value, get rid of Charles. Oh, because it was loading from local storage. That's why. That's why. Okay, cool. Pick a person. Charles has to drive. I also see that our selector is grabbing. So this is it's grabbing the button, which we don't want. We just want the name. So that's actually just like a bug with the code in general. So we can sort that out though. That's real. That's not a problem. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. So I didn't even have to move this. Okay, I see what happened here. Because we were loading an item from local storage, I think that was the problem. So let's try this. Reload. Charles. Yep. Boom. Charles. Reload. So the button one does seem to be the issue. Maybe we can't actually customize that one. Or maybe we let that get customized with JavaScript. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like figuring out how to solve that one. So I'm gonna undo that piece of it, and we'll skip that for now. This is me being a lazy dev. All right, so remove button. We will allow the label to get customized, but I'm not dealing with this right now. So let's try that. Remove everyone. Yep. So we'll say Charles, Kyle, Jenna, Billy. Pick a person. Kyle has to drive. Billy, Charles. Charles is driving a lot. Okay. Thing is not showing up, which is great. We can remove everyone. Yep. And if I were to do that again, Charles, Jenna, Kyle, just double checking. Everybody loads up the way they're supposed to. Add a person, pick a person, remove everyone. Awesome, cool. So we're done. All right, sweet. So at some point, I should probably figure out what was up with that button. In fact, I want to know why. So shuffle. So we're getting the items. We're shuffling the items. We're displaying them. So the key piece here is get items. So this array from LA text content. Okay. So the SVG is not showing up as text content, but as soon as we drop in an emoji, it does. And that's part of the problem. Because the SVG, it's HTML. There's no actual like text in it. But once we switch over to an emoji, that becomes part of the text. And that's where the problem lies. So we could probably, we could actually solve for that really easily. So if we update this, and then we jump down to get items, right? So we're going to replace this settings remove button. Boom. So this way we make sure the remove button doesn't show up. Cannot read property of settings. Yes, that's correct, because we're doing this. So we'll arrow function this. Oh, just sorry, I should have clarified. So with a traditional function, the context of this changes. With an arrow function, it doesn't. So we were losing access to our web component. Sorry, that's what was happening there. Let's try this again. Add a person. Charles has to drive. Jenna, blah, blah, blah. Remove. All right, cool. Now we can customize buttons. All right, that was easy. Super easy fix. Solved. Done. Got all the customization in. So just to recap what we ended up doing, we created a settings object where we have a bunch of defaults, and we also have the ability to override them with custom attributes on our element. When this runs, it's going to automatically grab this settings and then the correct setting instead of having them hard-coded. We also added the ability using the string replace method to let users customize with some dynamic values, which is always nice. The really cool thing about this approach is we have the ability to use multiple instances, and they'll show up with different settings. Now, the one thing you will see here is it's pulling the same local storage value every time, and we don't want that. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. We've got a couple minutes. Let's just wrap up this last thing. So the last setting we want here, right, is local storage equals, we're going to call this one designated driver. And then we're going to call this one local storage equals rando. And inside our web component, we are, we're going to have local storage ID, this get attribute local storage. Now with this one, we're not going to have a fallback. So what I think makes the most sense here is if you want local storage, you have to specify a specific ID that will prevent any sort of conflicts. So let's go into any sort of local storage item here, right? So we've got multiple local storage things, right? So we're going to say if no this settings local storage return. So we're only going to run if there's a local storage defined. And then we are going to use that as part of our local storage kind of value here. Let's do like an underscores kind of thing here. And then let's do the same thing everywhere else. So we're going to do this. So if there's no local storage value, do nothing. Otherwise, grab it. And same thing with load items. If there is an item, or if there's a local storage value, we'll use it. If not, we'll do nothing. Let's just swap this over to a template literal, so that works. All right, cool. So now, let me add a little bit of space between these, because there we go. Okay, cool. So now we've got add a person, add an item, right? So we're gonna have Charles, Jenna, Kylie, and Duke. I don't know, I'm just making up names here. And then for this one, we'll say apples, bananas, grapefruit. Okay. Can pick a random person. We can pick a random fruit. And if I reload the page, none of them worked. Okay, let's see why. What happened here? Are these not getting saved? Application. No, we want local storage. Okay. Pick it random. Reload. So did I forget to reload? Was it something that dumb? No, okay. Local storage. What did I do in, it's clearly something I messed up in the markup. So let's see, what did I do wrong? So local storage, designated driver. Okay. So load items. Let's submit save items. So let's jump down into save items. This settings, local storage. I bet this is a reserved name. Oh, you know what? It's local storage ID. That's why. Local. Why didn't you tell me? I'm just kidding. Obviously, this is a recorded video. That was a little dad joke humor for you there. All right. Let's try this again. So Kyle, yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Kyle, Jenna, Duke, Rebecca. I'm sorry. I know these are all like fraternity, sorority names. I got to be a little bit more creative here. Fruit. No, not fruit. Come on, man. Apple, banana, orange, grapefruit. So we can see we've got our separate lists now. When I reload the page, those all just kind of bolt in with their respective settings. Cool. All right. We've got this one on lock. So if you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor. Like it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, I would love if you did that. If you think someone else might also find this interesting, please feel free to share it. Let other people know. All of these things tell YouTube's algorithm that you like these videos and you want more of them. Also, if you have any questions, anything you are unsure why I did it, or you think I should have done it differently, let me know down in the comments. For our next video, we are going to tackle local storage in a slightly different angle. So I'm going to show you how to add custom events to your web components to let developers extend them even further beyond just the options and settings that we looked at today. So with that, I will see you all next time, and thanks so much for watching. Cheers.